Hello, everybody. It's great to be here. My name is Gary Fowler, and I am the CEO, president, and co founder of GSD Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located right here in Silicon Valley. And it's great to be here today with my friend, Ivan Kristel. Ivan is an entrepreneur, Ivan is a venture capitalist, and has an incredibly interesting background. And with that, I'd like to bring Ivan on. Hi, Ivan. How you doing today?
Hi, Gary. Good to be here. I'm tired, but good. How are you?
I'm good. I tried logging in from I'm actually at my house back in the valley, and I didn't realize that I didn't have the login codes on my notebook. So I was trying to figure out the login codes. So I've been going back and forth going, oh, this sucks. But hey, we're here. And so tell me about, I got a question for you. So you're at Middlecap, but you were in South Dakota. I was reading about South Dakota. What in the world did you do in South Dakota?
Well, I was there when I was 17. It was like a typical high school program. I spent there a year in a family. It was a great year, actually. Like I've learned a lot, and I think like it's something that everybody from this region should experience. I think we have a lot to learn from West and East as well. And for me to be there for 1 year on a high school taught me a lot, actually. I mean, I was able to experience the actual life in the USA. I think like a lot of people when they talk about USA, I don't think they understand like how big the country is, and everybody is sort of like visiting New York, LA, Detroit, big cities. I was living in a part of your country where there's like the nearest neighbor was, I think, 7 miles from us, and that for me is like a different part of America that everybody is experiencing mostly.
So what'd you do for fun? So what do people do in South Dakota? Do you go camping? Do you go did you go skiing? Or I mean, what do you do if there's no neighbors around? So how do you go visit somebody? You're 17 years old, you're in South Dakota. So typical Saturday, what did you do? Chase
Well,
cows or what?
I mean, you go to church a lot. That's what you do in South Dakota. But I think most of the activities were involved around school. So I did everything I could. I did basketball, I did track, I did American football. For me, new experience. I never tried it before, but for me it was interesting to try these kind of things, exactly because there was nothing else to do. People were meeting on petrol stations, but there was not much to do apart from fishing, hunting, and this kind of experience. But I mean, it was fun. I mean,
you were meeting at gas stations? You met at gas stations?
Yeah, that was what people did there. Like, I mean, if you wanted to meet with someone, like that's where you were hanging out. Like, this is how it worked. I mean, maybe it's different now. I mean, I don't want to sound like that South Dakota is the end of the world, but it was fun. I mean, like I actually have a feeling that I was able to experience the real part of the USA. And then anytime I go to the USA, I try to travel to actually these sort of weird places. Last time I was in Miami, I spent there 7 days, and I said like I want to travel somewhere else. So I went to Alabama, to the like a smallest town I could find, and I went to pub there, and I was able to experience like a local culture. And for me, it's like super interesting. For me, it's fun, and those people are very thankful to see anybody from Europe to actually visit their place, and they are very willing to talk to you, and they want to know Europe. They want to experience anything that you are able to provide. So for me, this is traveling. This is much more interesting than to go to, I don't know, New York, Miami for me is like too much bling and too little content.
Yeah, there's a lot of bling compared to South Dakota. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
What kind of bling? So what was the big thing, Ivan? I'm really curious, right? So like, what did they like do okay, you hang out the gas station, but like, so is everything around the church and the school? Was it centered around that, or did they go to malls, or what did people, really like do? If so, you're young, you're 17. Was there a shopping center where you hang out, or they didn't have any of that stuff either?
I mean, yeah, there was this. I think the closest town was called Millet, and I think the town had 50,000 people. We lived, I think, 100 miles from it, so it took us quite a while to get there. But I mean, yes, you were able to hang out in the mall, but most of the activities were involved around school. I mean, actually, like we had a very good football team, and for me, it was quite surprising to see. Like I come from a small town in Slovakia as well. My town has 50,000 people, but I was super surprised. Like when there was football going on, I think there was around 2,000 to 3,000 people who came to watch like a high school football, and for me, that was something that I never experienced before. Like we my hometown is called Zvolen, and we play hockey, we play soccer, and like anytime, like they play like first league in or first division in Slovakia, and like the stadium has 5,000 people capacity, and it's not even full. Like maybe if you play finals, but in South Dakota we play high school football and it was packed. For me, it was like a
Well, I mean,
weird
you're
experience.
like
Like
a superstar there if you're on the football team, right? I mean, you're
I
probably.
was. Yeah, I was a kicker, so you catch the ball, you kick the ball, and that's it. Like there was not,
Yeah, but
it
the
was not that
kickers,
difficult.
the punters are important. That's great. Wow, that's an incredible experience. I grew up in Pennsylvania on the side of a mountain myself. So I was
Mm.
in a not quite, we didn't have 100 miles away for a mall, but it was quite interesting. So I understand. So let's fast forward. So where were you born? You mentioned your city. So you were born in Slovakia, correct?
Yep, I'm from a small town, and when I was 17, went to the USA, and when I was 20 and 21, I went to Great Britain. I came back. I started my first business, and that was, I think, 12 years ago. And now I'm doing venture capital. I'm managing partner of Air Ventures, and I'm handling the venture capital division of Middlecap Group. So a lot of things happen in between, but this is like where I started, and in the middle, I did a lot of agency jobs. I have my own IT company, so but it's not too active. I do a project when I like it or when I want to. I also have two kindergartens with my girlfriend, so I sort of consider myself to be a project manager. I don't I For me, like the positions like CEO and managing partners, that for me is like too abstract. I consider myself to be a project manager. I like to work on project. I want to be involved, and I want to understand it, and I want to be involved and help it out. So I think the best description of what I do is project management.
No, that's great. And so tell me a little bit about middle cap. So what are you looking at? What's your target? What's your mandate?
Well, anytime I try to explain what we do or how it's set up, it's sort of difficult because I am managing partner of Air Ventures, and the Air Ventures is, when we simplify things, we say like we are a fund, but we are not a fund. We are basically an investment boutique, and that boutique is the majority of that boutique is owned by Middlecap, and Middlecap is an investment group that, maybe to give you a picture, in the past 3 years, we invested over 750 million. We are in 12 countries. We have 5 divisions, and I'm managing the smallest division. The bigger divisions are focused on advisory, real estate, capital markets, and I'm managing the smallest, but for me, like the most fun division, to be honest, because it's involved around technologies and what we do. I don't want to speak for other divisions because we would be here forever. But what we do in my division is that we try to look for talents. We are very much technologically agnostic. Is this how you say it?
Mhm.
And we try to invest into talent and technology that makes sense, that has some traction, and that also involves us, or that allows us to bring some unfair advantage to the startup. and leverage the network of Middlecap, leverage the network of partners, of our skills, and so on and so on. So anytime we invest, we look at it and we try to understand it and try to figure out if we can boost it, adjust it, help it out, involve it in our activities in other divisions. So this is what I do, and this is how we approach any investment that is on the table.
No, that's great. And so how big is the fund today?
This is another thing. Like we do aim to invest 10 million in following years, but the reason why when I talk to people like you, I don't present it as a fund. I really do consider it to be like an investment boutique of private individuals, and if we don't find something interesting, we simply do not invest. This is one of the things that for me is difficult to understand, and also to give you a bit of a context, in Europe there's a lot of EU money involved, and what usually happens is that a lot of funds get money from EU, or at least like 50% of it is invested also using EU money. And that sort of, like, in my opinion, hinders the market. And what happens sometimes is that they invest because they feel like they need to invest. We invest only if we feel that it's something for us. If we don't invest, and we invest fairly little, to be honest, we invest we make one investment per year. On average, if I take a look on.
So is it a $10 million investment every year?
No. What we do is like in past 3 years, I think we had a couple of investments in the past, but I think on average we do 1 or 2 investments per year, which means that we don't do something that I call spray and pray. When we invest, we do like a heavy due diligence, and we want to make sure that we invest into something that makes sense, that is able to use the network of Middlecap, that is able to, stand on its own legs. We don't invest like maybe we don't do 80 investments per year and then maybe count that one of them will fly. We try to do like a very heavy due diligence on the startups. To give you an example, actually last week we tried to do an investment that actually didn't happen, but the due diligence took 5 months. We digged, we went through everything, and in the end it didn't happen. But we are very picky investors, and the reason is that we invest our own money, and we try to be very careful. We want to improve it. I mean, obviously, if you are in venture capital, you need to be able to take some risks, and you need to invest more to be able to have some sort of stable portfolio that is able to bring you some value in the end. But if I were to be honest, we are not a fund. That's why we don't need to invest just because we need to spend the 10 million in 3 years. We aim to spend 10 million, let's say, in following 3 years. But if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. We want to invest only if it makes sense.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Interesting. So tell me about what your investments look like. Like, tell me how big are they? How much do you put in typically?
Our typical investment is somewhere around 200 to 1 million. That's our typical spot. But again, it's all, for me, it's very difficult to talk about these things because we are able to take a look on investment that is like in the range of 2, maybe even 5 million, but it needs to make sense. It needs to be something that, for example, we can take a look on and say like, this is good because we can use this, let's say, technology in all our real estate projects, and we are able to, for example, use this in our real estate network, and that's when we are able to take a look on tickets that are much higher. But our typical investments are somewhere between 200K to 1 million, and we usually try to find something that is, there is some, how to say this, there's some technology involved, there's some USP that you have, and something that makes you unique, which is easily said, and sometimes we even break this criteria, but we try to look at these kind of investments mostly.
No, that's interesting. So you invest up to $1 million, and you only do one a year. Where are the companies from that you're invested in?
Again, if I were to be honest, when we enter this, or maybe to give you a bit of a history of how I enter this segment, I was with my IT company. I was providing services to Middlecap, and then they said like, "Listen, Ivan, we want to do venture capital," and I said like, "That's nice, but you need to have a network. Like, you need to not just bring money on the table. You need to be involved in the ecosystem. You need to have someone who understands the rules, who understands the how it works in this region and so on." So that's why we approached Air Ventures. That's why we started to negotiate how to do this together with Air Ventures. And when we started to craft a strategy, we said like we want to focus on Europe, and then you start to dig deeper, and then you realize like it's a bit more difficult than it seems and at first. So we to give you an overview, we invested into I think 6 startups, and each one of them is either from Czech Republic or Slovakia. But our criteria is that we want to look at investments from Europe, but to be completely honest, we mostly focus on CEE region. So Czechoslovakia, Poland, maybe Ukraine, Austria. We had a couple of leads from Germany, but mostly CE, to be honest.
I got it. I got it. Now it sounds like it sounds like you're having fun anyhow. That's the main thing, right? To enjoy life. So, and are those companies going global, or what stage are they in when you're investing in them? Are they early stage? It seems like with a check up to $1 million, that's almost a pre-seed, small seed round, right?
Yep. Exactly. I mean, they are mostly in seed stage, so they are getting traction. I think we had an interesting discussion about this before, and I think our criteria are a bit similar. So we want to see some traction, but with the tickets that we do, you obviously get a traction that is, I think, attached to a seed round or pre-seed or maybe after angel investment. And we typically look at investments that are around that are doing around, let's say, 35 to 50K revenue a month. So this is usually the stage that they are at. But we usually focus on startups that have somehow figured out how to do how to make sure that the unit economics work. We dig deeper into e-commerce or like data that allows us to understand that if this is scalable, and then they're usually like at a stage when they are before going global. I think you actually had a discussion with one of our investments that they are at the stage when they are, let's say, in 12 countries, but they are not yet in the USA, and they are at like a stage when they like need to still do a couple of steps before they become a global superstar. So this is the typical stage of the startups that we enter into.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we do. I mean, that's why I'm right here. In fact, I'm looking at Cupertino as we speak, looking at the window towards the mountains up there. But it's that's part of the challenge, right? It's going global. How do you get the brand out? How do you get the right visibility? I know when we did Click Software, a company from Israel, brought to Campbell, California. And in that side, I came in marketing, and a lot of it is marketing, Ivan. It's having the contacts in the network, right? So changed the name of the company from MyIT to Click Software, came up with a family of products. Company was sold to Salesforce for 1.35 billion, right? A lot of steps in between, and I was just part of it. But that's how it works. I mean, it's about credibility, trust, bringing those companies over, getting the right kind of partners, the right kind of buy-in, and making sure that they have what they say. They got the right stuff. As you say, you're going down through and checking it out and doing your due diligence. At the same time, we do it, and what we're looking for is we're looking for companies that have the right stuff, primarily in AI and quantum computing. many times companies like cybersecurity. We have companies from Germany, from all over the world. Also, Africa, we have a lot of time. There's 1.3 billion people in Africa. So spending some time there, and you'd be surprised at the kind of startups. Surprising, actually.
And how do you do due diligence on startups that are like so far away from you?
Well, because we have
How does it work?
well, I mean, we have a broad network. I've been doing this stuff for 30, almost 37 years. So you can imagine who you know over that period of time. But so we use our network in places like Kenya. We go there too. I mean, we were just down there about a month ago. So we're actually going down, meeting with the folks, and our network is VCs and entrepreneurs. And you know how it works. I mean, you find out, you start asking the right questions. They say, well, you want to check this company out. This company's very interesting. And then you open the cover and look inside of it. I don't have to be there to look inside the company. Some of the things is, who are the people that are involved in the company? And a lot of it's word of mouth. A lot of it's making sure you do your due diligence. But those are the places. When I first went to Russia, it was the same situation. A lot of people weren't going to Russia. This is early 2000s. Right? And there's incredible opportunity, but you got to get inside the network. The thing is, you can't be from the outside looking in. You got to be from the inside looking out. And so what does that mean? That means, get actively involved in events, get actively involved in the ecosystem.
Yeah, one of the things that for me is very difficult during the Corona age is I do like to, like be one-on-one with the founder. I do want to have a discussion and deeply understand like what's his motivation. For example, another thing that I do is I try to test how he handles or she handles silence. I give them the silence treatment. I wait how they handle it, and if they have a strong personality and how deeply they understand this. And for me, it's a lot of nuances that are attached to this feeling that you get from a person. That's why I'm always interested like to figure out how you can do this, let's say over Zoom. And then secondly, like if you invest in Kenya, that for me is like something that is very difficult for me to understand, because like it's still a venture capital, and no matter how deeply you go into numbers, at the end you still make a decision based on guts and based on your feeling, and there's usually not too many things you can rely on, especially not valuation of the startup and so on. So that's why for me it's a lot of these kind of nuances, and Corona age didn't help that out. And that's why for me it's interesting to understand like how you do these kind of investments, because I believe you do it very similarly. You always like you want to be one-on-one and understand like if this is something, and if the founder is someone who you can trust, and if it's going to be someone that you can work with.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so in answer to your question, 73% of communications are body language, right? So the way people act, the way they look. The other part of it is what kind of a grit do they have? What kind of personality do they have? You said one thing, 30 to 50% per month, MRR. If they start, that they have some type of product market fit, and they do have a chance that they've got their teams working together, and what kind of growth are they having month over month. So if you start to look at those facts, you can start to understand whether the team's working together. A lot of times what happens, Ivan, is they're technical founders of these companies, probably close to 70%, I would say. So they're looking for people to come in that can help them when marketing, sales, business development, operations, to really guide the company to be $1 billion company. Because it's, until you start to build those, right, as it's, people talk about unicorns, but they're mythical creatures. They don't exist. They purely don't exist. And so it's a matter of taking those companies, understanding whether or not the team can work together, and then how accepting are they of different ideas, right? Part of the challenge of coming into a startup is, are they open-minded or not? If they're not open-minded, it's not worth working with them. But, this is, as you say, it's a marriage, right? You get into it, you're into a marriage with them. And can you work together? And are they in? This won't be the only deal. Most of the deals that I do personally are with people that I've worked with before. I know them. We've worked on different things. And, the former chief security officer at Apple, director of security, my friend Rick Orloff. I work with him in many different companies, right? Bill Reichert, who's on our board, many different companies. Guy Kawasaki's partner. So it's just you build a network of people you trust. And so my idea is this isn't one deal with them. This is one of many deals. And then it becomes really fun because when it's all said and done, Ivan, it's about, how much fun are you having and are you really enjoying what you're doing? Is it, it's great making money, but money comes with enjoying yourself and building a good team of folks. So when we're in Nigeria, I mean, we go there physically. It's not easy, right? The other thing is, remember, Warren Buffett says, always go to areas that other people aren't. You got to go in the other direction of the crowd. And when you do that, you find opportunities because other people are afraid to go or don't understand it. So it's not easy, but a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that I actually admire on you. I mean, not too many people approach me. I think we've met on this African event that was focused around like startups in Africa, and I was super surprised that he approached me, and I had a good feeling. I think like there was like 25 people in the jury, and I felt like we were the only two asking like very tough questions, and I felt like, okay, like this could be someone that has a similar mindset, and I was very surprised that you approached me and got in touch with me. And obviously you are the one taking the extra step, meeting with someone from Slovakia, someone from Russia, someone from anywhere in the world. So and I think it gives you a lot of like positive things back. I think just like you mentioned, like when you do due diligence, you need to rely on your network, and this is one of the things that we do. And let's be completely honest, I'm not a very good networker. That's why we have my partner who is managing like the PR side of Air Ventures, and he's also like heavily involved in the event that we organize. Every year we do Startup World Cup and Summit. Bill Reichert is actually involved in it as well, and it's one of the biggest competitions that happen in CE region. We are happy to actually have you on it, I think next year. And my colleague who is in charge of these things, we both understand that I'm more of a transactional guy when it comes to executing the all things that need to happen when it comes to due diligence and transaction. But I do understand that this is the other part of the having a venture capital fund that you need to also focus on, and that you need to have someone who actually enjoys this. That's why I think like what you are doing makes sense.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, it takes a lot of people to make up a village, right? So you have different people that like different things. You got to find that's in building a startup, as you know, you're different. I always look for somebody that loves operations. I look for somebody that's got a finance background to be able to complement the kind of skills that you have, because it's like a marriage. And I appreciate the invitation. I look forward to it. So we're coming up to the top of the hour, Ivan. So closing thoughts, what are your over the next year in terms of venture, in terms of startups around the world? What are your thoughts about what's going to happen, and what's the best way that people can reach you?
Well, to be honest, I don't like to do these kind of things, like to predict the future. And especially in this age, I consider this to be time when it's very hard to expect anything. I think we are not ready for what, I mean, like we live in an exponential age, and it's very hard to predict what's going to happen. But in my opinion, there are some things that do not change, and the application of, for example, critical thinking is something that I believe will be always beneficial. And people who are able to use that in their startups, projects, whatever they do, I think they will be able to benefit from it, and they will be able to leverage it to their use. And how people can reach me, they can go to airventures.eu, and they are able to find some contacts on us. And I would be very happy if anybody with a project, thought, networking idea, anything, or someone who wants to be involved in our fund would reach out and get to us, and we can meet and discuss how we can find synergies between what he or she does and between what we do.
No, that sounds super. So an audience, I mean, I want to give you some tidbits, Gary's forecast a little bit. Think about it. We've all been, and I've been said some critical things. We've all been cooped up for the last year. I know in the US and Silicon Valley, as of next week, things are open again. Florida, where I've got